Welcome to another episode of Steele Spotlight and William Steele True Crime. This is William Steele with my host, Ignacio Esteban, retired ATF agent.
Bill, what's
Welcome,
going on,
Ignacio.
man?
Right.
We're kicking butt here, man. I think we've done like over 20 some shows already between guest shows and these shows, and it's getting really popular. I like it, and you're doing
Is it
some
that?
really cool shorts too. If your audience hasn't checked them out, man, you got to check out those neat, cool shorts are out there in your channel.
Yeah. You froze momentarily right there just for a second, though. So, yeah, everything's picking up now, finally, and it's looking good. I can't believe we have 20 shows in already just between us, plus my other shows that I've been putting out.
That's
Steele
great.
Spotlight TV is
Fantastic.
getting very polished now. We put together a beautiful show this morning, and I submitted it to air this weekend. So let's
Nice.
roll in today's show. So today,
Yeah.
for the viewers, we're going to be touching on a few things, and not least of which is about the Yakuza, which is the Japanese mob, the Fast and Furious operation with ATF.
Yes.
Let me see. Impeachment proceedings, perhaps
Big
against
news.
President Biden.
That's
Yep.
big news. That's a very big news.
Hunter Biden possibly facing more charges. Mitt Romney
And Mitt Romney not seeking a second term.
yeah,
There's a lot of stuff going. Horrific news in Libya. Over 20,000 dead and counting with a massive flood that took over out there. It's horrific. They think it could even be higher, the death toll there too. So it's horrible things around the world going on. But that was shocking. You haven't seen those pictures, man. That is
I think
just
they said
shocking pictures.
a dam burst or something, didn't it?
That's just shocking picture.
You're breaking up really, really bad. You're frozen completely right now.
The carnage. How about now?
Um,
Can you
yeah,
hear me now?
barely. Your image is fuzzy, breaking up really bad.
Let me try moving this here. Let's try it again. Looking good. Libya, really bad. And
I can hear you now.
I have really good. I have one of the best Wi-Fi files, but sometimes you never know what's going on. I know you have files too, right?
Files, what's that?
Files. What do you have for your Wi-Fi?
Well, we had something that was creating a lot of problems, and so we went with Xfinity to the top of the line, like the very
Okay.
top one.
Yeah. Verizon, which is the files, their top Wi-Fi is considered one of the best. I think we have 5G network, so it really.
We have 5G here.
Yeah. Can you
That's
hear me
why
now?
I'm surprised. Yes, I can hear you. I'm surprised it's doing that, but I understand there's been a lot of hacking going on too, like in Vegas.
There's a lot of problems going on, unfortunately. So that has a lot of issues too around the world. So, but anyways, we left off on Libya.
Let me touch on something with you real quick.
Yeah.
You follow politics in the war in Ukraine and Russia. I noticed that they said that Ukraine successfully attacked a submarine and a ship, and they've been dropping bombs onto Moscow. What do you know
Yeah, I
about
saw
this?
that. Yeah, that's amazing. The war keeps on escalating, and I think that's bad news for the world. And how about Putin and Kim Jong Un meeting in Russia, right, to some sort of arms deal to help the North Koreans stay in power? I can't make the Chinese too happy because you don't want them too well armed. But at the end, maybe the Chinese did give the blessing. You never know, just to piss us off. But and I know the South Koreans can't be happy with what's going on there
I
with Kim
think
Jong Un,
Putin
the
used to
little rocket
supply
man.
he used to supply them with arms and weapons. Now he's going for them for help with for munitions or whatever he needs for his war. They said he's terrified of being assassinated right now as well.
Yeah, that's why Trump called him Little Rocket Man. Remember that? Shooting little
Yep.
rockets. That's all he's good for. But one of those little rockets is going to end up hitting Japan, right? It's going to end up hitting South Korea, one of our allies, or it's going to hit maybe even go to Guam. You don't know. Guam's not too far either. Our territory out there. He's
Right.
dangerous. He's crazy. He's abusive. I wrote a book about him, and it's called Kim Jong Un, Little Rocket Man. And I go in details of the abuses he has done for years and years in North Korea. His father, Kim Jong Il, right? And then you have his grandfather. It's been that family destroying ever since the Korean War, destroying North Korea. They're very good at starvations. You know how they control the masses? Through starvation, controlling the food, and pretty much use them as a slave force. And he lives like an opium king. You know what's even crazier? Look at go to that basketball player from Chicago Bulls, Gosh, his name I had him right on my lips.
Rodman.
Rodman, Dennis
Rodman.
Rodman. Remember Dennis Rodman? He
Yeah,
would go
he's a
out there.
clown. He's a clown,
He,
in my opinion.
he was like a man child. The other one too. Kim Jong Un was like impressed with this guy and out there and everything else, but it was a disaster. It shows his mindset where this guy is. He's a man child. They even had his brother assassinated, his half brother assassinated at the airport with a girl pretending it was a
Oh,
skit and putting the
I remember that.
chemicals in his eyes and killing him.
Yep. They
Yeah.
said it. They hired them to
That's a
do
big. You haven't seen that documentary,
those assassins claimed that they were hired to do a prank video. They didn't realize that there was
right?
poison on that rag.
Right.
Talk about
And
you.
he was
Talk
dead
about.
within minutes. He was dead.
I
I talk in detail about that in my book. I
I
talk a lot of
think
detail
those
about it in my book.
girls. I think those girls got life in prison that were recruited.
No,
even though they
they charges were dropped. All the
Oh, they
charges
were
were dropped.
dropped. Okay.
Everything was dropped on them because they realized they had no idea. You have to have knowledge you're doing a crime, and they really had no idea they were duped.
Right.
They were duped by North Korean intelligence, and they were duped to use it. It's horrible, a horrible situation. I saw a really good detailed documentary. That's why I wrote the book on this. And I want to say it happened in Malaysia at the airport there, and I have all the details of what happened there. But he allegedly Kim Jong Un's brother, and this is what's out there. And I saw the documentary, and I was researching it. Was working for the CIA because they have video of him, I guess, meeting with the CIA out there, and that's one of the reasons why his brother Kim Jong Un wanted him killed. He wasn't happy. He's working for the Americans, working for us. He's how I think these things work internationally, and he was threatened by him, and for him to do that, that's blatant. And these guys escaped. The assassins who ran this operation got lucky and got out pretty quickly, and they're hiding, of course, in North Korea, if they're still alive. All these guys, you do your dirty work, I got to kill you too.
Right. Man, you see a lot of stuff at working with ATF, but nothing like the intelligence game. These guys are murdering each other and putting up patsies to do it and everything else.
Yeah, these guys would take care of business. So that's kind of the reason why a lot of people think Kim Jong Un's brother, and I have all his information in my book there, Little Rocket Man, why he ends up killing him, because he doesn't like the information he's passing around. And of course, they want to get rid of this guy. An assassination, well, he killed his brother. They think, and allegedly, he pretty much brutalized his uncle too, because uncle was trying to get rid of him. It's a brutal game to be on top. Like Trump even said, when that young, to stay on top of North Korea, which is a brutal, brutal game. The guy's a killer. He
Everybody
has people executed all the time.
Everybody over there skinny and scrawny except for him, and he's chubby like me. He's very portly guy. He's eating well while the whole country is eating. The rest of the country is eating tree bark.
Yeah, he's masturbate. He's the master. These people are the master of mass starvation. That's how you control the masses. You starve them to death, give them very little, and you control these people. And have you seen these images? I've seen the videos.
That's kind of funny. You said mass starvation, and you broke up a little bit right in that moment, and it came out sounding like a different word entirely. You said these people are guilty of mass starvation.
Yeah.
All right, enough of that. Enough of that.
And do you know how he killed? But you know how he allegedly killed his uncle?
No.
Bill?
Oh, was he the one that was tied up and shot? He killed him personally with a machine gun or something, a 50 caliber.
He tied him. He had a pack of wild dogs, and he was tied up and unleashed them on him.
Oh man! Oh my God!
These guys don't play, man. These guys are bad news.
And he took an anti-aircraft. Which guy did he kill? Where he had him tied down or tied up on a pole, and used a 50 caliber anti-aircraft machine gun, and he personally did it. He personally killed him. Remember that one? He killed somebody like that with a 50 caliber machine gun.
Yeah, these guys, they want to blow it off. But I think it's more sadistic to have these pack of wild dogs to just tear something to shreds alive. They just imagine that, huh? That's to send a message. And not only his uncle, but you know what he did? He executed his entire family from his uncle's side, so they won't have retribution against him. Because of course you want payback, right? The children and the nieces and nephews. Oh, you killed one of my family members. I'm gonna try to kill him. He killed that entire legacy, so they won't ever come back. Everybody got executed. Yeah. That's the kind of person Kim Jong Un is. So the information there, folks.
the Sicilian mob was like that. You know, there was always the thing about vendetta. You know, if you killed somebody in the family, there was always going to be somebody come get you from
Yeah,
the family.
sometimes they want to kill. Well, that's what the cartels are. They don't want you to come back for them. So they execute the whole family. They take care of everybody. That's brutal. And Yakuza, we'll transition. This is perfect to transition to Yakuza right here, because the Japanese mafia has been around for hundreds of years, right? Hundreds and hundreds, over 500 years, right? But it looks like, if people don't know much about Yakuza, I wrote a short book on it. And I kind of got inspired watching a little bit of Tokyo Vice. Pretty cool series. That's on Max streaming. And if you haven't seen it, it's based on the life of Adelstein. He was a crime beat reporter, an American, back in the 90s that reported on Yakuza when it was getting pretty interesting. And he had some interesting stories. He wrote he had a documentary, wrote a book about it, and then making this pretty cool series to Tokyo Vice. So if you haven't seen that, it was out for a few seasons. Go check it out. I think it's pretty interesting.
Where does that air?
Max. Streams on Max.
I don't even think I've heard of that.
Yeah, there's so many channels out there streaming. there's a ton of them out there, Bill. Ton of them. And I'm getting to the point where I'm going off topic here a little bit. I'm getting to the point where I'm getting fed up with my cable bill, even though I'm doing well. And I think maybe just do streaming and be done with it. And we have all the other movie channels out there. You know, you have Disney Plus, and you have what's the one with all the movies? I'm blanking right now. I have Amazon Prime. Well, there's plenty out there. So you don't need to spend $250 a month. What you can do for like $50. And you know what? Now they're free. Most of these channels are free too. So,
well, let me know if you figure that out and send me the information, because when I first got out, somebody did me the favor. It was actually Mary, and she got like everything imaginable so I can get caught up. Well, guess what? I binged The Sopranos, Tiger King, Sons of Anarchy.
Oh wow!
And there's a really good show you would love called Fauda, Fauda. Fauda. It's about how like the Mossad and Israeli intelligence, special operations go inside. They sneak inside and they take out terrorists, either killing them or kidnapping them back into Israel. And it shows how their operations unfold. It's really, really a phenomenal series. But anyway,
what channel is that on?
I forgot. I could get it back to you, but it's called Fauda. Fauda.
I'll look it up. Yeah, that sounds cool.
Great show.
So anyway, you have cable then, right?
We had everything, and then it became ridiculous because once we binged all that stuff on various channels, the bill was so massive.
It is massive.
Just keep me on Fox News, and I don't care what else you get rid of. I pretty much just watch that, and what you said, I try to get balanced news, so I still look at ABC World News every now and then to get the the bullshit side of the story. But you have to have some balance. But I notice a lot of the stuff on the networks is so fake, and they're finally telling some truth about how Biden was caught lying about this and this wasn't accurate. And I'm like, wow, I've never seen
talk about that too.
Yeah, ABC attacked Biden yesterday, and I couldn't believe it. I nearly fell over. So
that is shocking. That is very shocking. A lot of times CNN was defending him, and now you're seeing some other networks going against him. Matt Gaetz, he's a congressman from Pensacola. He's out in front. He's calling pretty much for Kevin McCarthy's resignation as Speaker of the House if he did not go with the inquiry on the impeachment of Joe Biden. So he's been pushing because he has this slim majority. And kind of those, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Gates, and others really don't want him there. So they're making this the big crust issue. We got to go forward with this. But you know what? I don't think they have the votes because there are other Republicans who don't want to impeach him yet. So they're going to have to go through this inquiry. They got to make their case.
Somebody said they're trying to really put Gavin Newsom up for president, and he destroyed California. He's completely destroyed the state. I don't know what person in their right mind would want that man as president.
I don't think there's any good choices there. Either Sleepy Joe, who told everybody, I don't know if you saw that press conference in Vietnam. They're very tired.
He needed a nap or something.
I want to. He says, I don't know about you guys, but the world's watching. You got to answer questions, Joe. You can't be going to sleep every time you're tired, Joe. This is the president. It's a tough job. 12, 14-hour days, 16-hour days. You can't do it. If you're having a hard time flying from India to Vietnam, then this is not for you. This is not for you already. And Kamala Harris, these are your choices. Sleepy Joe, Cackling Camp, Kamala Harris, right? And then you have Newsom there, who's destroyed California. Everybody's left California. Anybody who could left California, and they're happy.
You
I
know,
think we
it's
talked
funny.
about this show, Patrick Bet David. You know Patrick Bet David, right?
Yes, yes.
Popular show, right? He talks
Value,
about
value payment. Great show.
how they took everything out of California. You know where they are? They're near Fort Lauderdale, right? He
Yeah.
moved his entire to Fort Lauderdale in that area. And what an amazing home he has, by the way. He has done really well. Leaving California, he said was the best thing he could have done. And you think,
Right.
and this everybody talking about this. The same guy, Ruben Report I sent you, he brought his whole show out of California all the way to Florida also. So everybody is just, if they can, they're leaving California, which is unbelievable. It's a beautiful state, but politics and the way they tax you, overtaxation, regulation, that's how a lot of liberals get to you. Overtaxation, overregulation. Well, who wants to live like that, right? You can't live like that.
And crime, and so soft on crime. It's one thing to be compassionate towards nonviolent or drug offenders and all that, and try to help them. Like I was in that boat. I would have liked some help in the beginning of this nightmare. Instead, I was in Florida in Broward County, and they just want to send you to prison and not give you any help back in those days. Now I think they're working a little bit more with people. Like they have these drug courts and all that. But when I first got started getting in trouble, they didn't give a crap. They went to prison.
Yeah.
But anyway,
and that's no way to handle anything. I mean, this is an important thing we talked about right here. And me being on one side and you're being the other side, me being in 26 years law enforcement and you're being 16 years incarceration, that is no way to handle it. You have to get these people up because it's a huge expense for the taxpayers, right? That's a lot of money we're spending in there. And then what's the solution? Just massive incarceration for the masses, for these criminals? No, you got to rehabilitate them. You got to get them back because if not, they're not going to change. Things will get worse. And
you
that's
literally have a generation, including with my own kids, of kids who do not know their parents because they were put in prison for decades for nonviolent crimes. I exactly fell into that situation. I have no contact with my kids. I've tried and tried and tried. The damage is done. There's been too many years of separation. And if you're out there listening, I love you guys, and I've tried to reach out. So.
That's a good thing, but I think this show, it's a way they can at least look at you and hear you, and maybe little by little, they'll eventually realize that you're not the same person you were when you started your crime spree, right? You're not breaking Nick Navarro's house anymore, right? That's unbelievable. You told me that story. I was like, wow.
Did I ever detail it to be on the air? We're 17 minutes in and never even got into our show yet. Listen, everybody, we have a million things to talk about. Ignacio can, kick it on many different levels and just keep going on and on. But we're going to get focused on this show for a minute because we're going to try to keep this one under an hour so we can get it out as a live. It is live. And then we're going to circle back. We're going to be doing political shows. So we're going to go into one of those as well. But let's see if we can focus on Yakuza now.
Yakuza. So we got off because of Tokyo Vice, and you asked me about Max streaming, and that's how we end up going on that rabbit hole there. Yeah. But if you haven't seen the show, pretty cool show. Adelstein, he's based on his life, being an American beat reporter, crime reporter in Tokyo. Mm-hmm. He got involved and he started covering a lot of Yakuza. He tells his perspective, which I found pretty fascinating. He wrote a book about it. It's called Tokyo Vice also. And, what is Yakuza? A lot of people have no idea. If you don't know what Yakuza is, it's organized crime, right? They've been around for hundreds of years, deep in tradition. People think of the all body tattoos, right? They call them irizumis when they the whole body tattoo.
You froze up
out there, but buried by steel needles, bamboo steel needles. I mean, that's rough, painful. And it takes years and years and years. And you can look online, look at the pictures, and each one has different meanings. They have the dragon, they have everything else, and what it represents. And they go up to a lot of times up to their ankles or up to their wrists. So if they wear a suit or a long shirt, you really can't see it. They try to cover it up if they have a shirt on or something, so you can't see. But when we take it off, their whole body's covered in. It's impressive, really. I started looking into it. It's impressive, these people, how they get into it. But they're very violent, very dangerous people.
I knew one of the initiations, I think, when they got in was cutting off their pinky.
Yeah, that's something. And I think they got away from it because they know that they do have it. Their finger reduced, shortened, finger shortenings, right? But they a lot of them know that they're getting picked up. The Japanese authorities, because the numbers used to be enormous, tens of thousands of those in Yakuza, right?
Right.
And ever since the Japanese, within the last 10, 15 years, have really gotten strict against them, it's illegal for anybody to deal business with a known Yakuza member. So if you're selling them a car, a house, even a phone, a watch, whatever have you, you'll be held in charges. Dealing with a known, if you know the person Yakuza and you're dealing with them, you're also going to be charged. So the numbers are dueling big time in Japan with Yakuza and around the world because it's just international. It's not just they were in Hawaii, they were Yakuza members in California, Yakuza members. And I'm going to tell you an interesting story, a 3-year investigation. Maybe I'll lead into this one right here, where they took a high-ranking Yakuza member and they arrested him after 3 years. The case was led with DEA, other DOJ components internationally. It went around the world with meetings with these guys in Asia, in Europe. And at the end, they took him down at Morton's in Manhattan. You know what Morton's in Manhattan is?
Steakhouse.
They eventually got him in. Steakhouse. They had the conspiracy case where they were going to get hundreds of pounds of cocaine, heroin. In exchange, they would sell them missile launchers, surface-to-air missiles, right? And one of the meetings in Europe, I think it was in Belgium, I got in my book, the exact place, he has the picture, undercover operation in a warehouse, and the Yakuza boss has it perched on his shoulder. You can see the video. You can see out there, and looking at them, and while they have the camera on the whole time. And that's an amazing picture. You haven't seen that. You got to take a look at that.
Who did that sting? CIA or law enforcement?
DEA. There's DEA case, but I think ATF was also involved, and also other law enforcement components around the world. You know, imagine Interpol, Europol, and others were involved.
Victor Bott was caught like that in some sting overseas, where he didn't trust coming. He didn't trust in the United States. They lured him to I think Bangkok or something.
Yeah, he didn't come to the U.S. though. He had to be taken out in Bangkok, Thailand. Yeah. This guy came to the U.S. with his 2 other cohorts that they took down. I guess in the Southern District of Manhattan, which was perfect for them, and right at Morton's.
That was
a 3-year investigation. Yeah, 3-year investigation. It took him out. So it took a while. Patience go out there. And the reason why these guys wanted these surface-to-air missiles, because they're involved arming. It used to be called Burma, the country, Myanmar. It's called now near China. There's a nasty civil war going on there with the rebel groups. They're arming them, and in Sri Lanka and other places. So Yakuza is also involved in these conflicts. It's not just about drug trafficking, gambling, gun running. They're involved with other terrorist groups, and they're arming them. That's why they're a problem. So that's interesting to look at Yakuza.
Here in Fort Wayne, where I'm currently located and filming, is a big Burmese population. It's massive here.
Oh.
And it's interesting. Most of them are very nice, but I have got close to a few of them. And even here, there's tension between 2 sides of that conflict here.
Oh, wow. I would never guess in Fort Wayne, Indiana, you have Burmese.
I looked. I don't think it's the biggest population of them. That's somewhere in Texas. I forgot what city, but it's like the second biggest collection of Burmese is in this city.
I would never would have guessed that.
Yep.
Especially with the cold weather. A lot of people like to come back, Southeast Asia a little warmer, and to go in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where it gets a little cold and snow blizzards and all that. It's like, yikes.
They go to Florida to hang out with Samantha Markle and Matt Cox.
Yeah, it's like Somalians. A lot of Somalians that came over to the U.S. and they're in Minnesota. Somalia's a really hot nation, Africa, and a lot of them are in Minnesota.
And then some of them congealed into a terrorist cell over there a few years ago. Remember that case? I forgot the name of that case.
They did.
All right, so now let's move on, because look, your books are all available on Amazon. Yakuza books going to be up on the screen here. If you're interested in his books, please check them out. And we're going to move into another case before we run out of time here. This show is a little compressed. So Fast and Furious case, gigantic case, ATF case.
ATF, Mexico, and the drug cartels, the reality after Operation Fast and Furious. That was actually my second book I ever wrote, Bill, back in end of 2022. My first one was about China and why you should never host another Olympic Games again, which I think was disgraceful, corruption in the IOC. And now I decided, and that inspired me. Those books started inspiring me when eventually I'll finish my autobiography, ATF Undercover. But what I write in that first one, I also included ATF Undercover about Operation Fast and Furious. And I knew a lot of the guys that were involved in that operation. I can talk a little bit in depth about that. A lot of people don't know what exactly happened what is Operation Fast and Furious? It would be the biggest probably bonehead operation in ATF history. It was an absolute
me,
debacle.
from my point of view, and a little bit I know about it because I don't
Yeah.
know a lot about it. The public perception is ATF allowed a lot of guns to go
Gun
to
walking.
Mexico
Yes, they
to
did.
develop informants and leads, and those same guns were used to then kill people, including agents and police.
Police, civilians, you name it. It was a debacle. It was a bad idea that was approved all the way to top ATF management.
Oh
After
my!
congressional hearings in 2011, which I know a lot of these guys who were whistleblowers that testified, guys I worked with, later one of them become my SAC in Miami, special agent in charge, and another one become an ASAC for me. And later he'll become a SAC. And you can see the testimony out there.
Can you say their names on air?
You can look it up. I mean, I'd rather not. I don't like mentioning people's names, but
Gotcha.
you can see you can see all the information stuff out there. Who testified what? But they were the SACs in Miami, ASAC, and they were trying, and they had a hard time because at the end it cost ATF a lot of the guys that the special agent in charge of the Phoenix Field Division was stepped down to an intel officer. The United States Attorney's Office, Arizona, was forced out, resigned. Right, high-ranking members, the director of ATF walked away from ATF at the time, right? He left. Yeah. And then you have other guys who were high ranking members in ATF management. They were fired. They were fired because it was just, and I think at the end, it was very lucky ATF wasn't abolished at the time for this operation. It survived this, just like it survived Waco, because it showed
was it during Fast and Furious? Was it still under Treasury or Justice?
No, it's Justice already. We went over Justice in 2003 after 9/11.
So your whole time in ATF, you personally have been under Justice. You've never been an agent while it was in Treasury, right?
No, I was a few years. I started in 2000.
I remember, there was a lot of resentment with some guys that they didn't want to become part of the Justice Department.
Some guys didn't want to. Some thought it was. I remember Buckles. He was a director at the time. He was all over. At one time, it was like Secret Service. They were Treasury also. They went to DHS, Department of Homeland Security. Wow. They thought ATF would go DHS also. It was a crazy circle, and we ended up DOJ, which I think was a good fit. I think we worked well in DOJ, and I made some really big cases. And for us agents, you put us wherever. Treasury, as long as the prosecutors respect you, want to work with you, that's all that matters. You could be wherever, and as long as the cases get done, that's what's important.
You guys are working in my opinion, the most dangerous cases out there. The most violent offenders and the weapons like that. You could be killed, or a civilian could be killed. If you don't have management listening to you about how you need to run your case, people can die. So.
Yeah, and people did die. And so how many people died in this operation? Over 2,000 weapons from the Arizona area, right, were allowed to go because a lot of these FFLs, federal firearms licensees, some of them were cooperating, right, with ATF, which we do that. That happens a lot. They say, hey, I got a suspicious guy here. He wants to buy like 10 Glocks, identical make and model, right? Can you hear me, Bill?
Yeah, you froze for a split second, but you're good now.
Okay, good. And then they said, I want to buy these, and they're cooperating with you, and they give you information. You know what trafficking, you know what buyers are, and collectors, and you know what guys who are trafficking, what the trends are, red flags. Right. So rather than, and I don't know whose idea, it came from the top, they thought it was okay to let these guns go to Mexico. They knew they were going to tie down. Instead of taking them down and interviewing the people, right, seizing the weapons, because that's what you should do. You shouldn't let it go down south. You should wall it off. Part of the investigation, wall it off, get the guns, seize the guns, and we have done those kind of cases in Miami a lot. You don't let the guns go down south to Colombia. You don't let the guns go to Jamaica. If you can stop it, you stop it, because these guns are going in bad people's hands. They're going to cartels. They're going to go and kill the people. And this operation went out for years. It was dubbed, it was Fast and Furious 1, but they were different cases, and they just dubbed it under one umbrella for gun walking. Pretty much they had Operation Wide Receiver, Operation Fast and Furious, and there were others. And they just dubbed it Fast and Furious Stuck. And this is what it was called, the technique gun walking, letting the guns go down south, which was a disaster. And in hopes of, and this was the SAC at the time, testified in front of Congress, said, well, sir, what was your idea? How are you going to get these guys? And we're hoping to get intel. Intel, I mean, we have no extradition agreements. You were hoping to get intel from recovering crime scenes. I mean, that's not the way you do it. That was probably the worst idea ever.
At that time, there was no tracking device or transmitters for these guns. That way you could track their location. I think they had ways to put them in bigger guns and missiles and boxes and crates, but not necessarily on handguns.
But not like this, nickel and dime. This was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So at the end, it cost all these guys everything. ATF survived. We kept on working. And I remember seeing the hearings. I remember seeing the guys and talking to them and saying, and they were calling. They were saying, hey, and even a border patrol agent was killed based on one of these weapons, right? And so it's really, really, really crazy and dangerous to let them out there. That's not the way you do business. And I think it damaged the relationship.
Did the family members of anybody demonstrably killed by one of those guns have any legal recourse as lawsuit against ATF at that time? Like you said, a border patrol agent. Okay, what about his wife? I mean, family.
Yeah, I think they sued. I think it was a gun that was used there, but I don't think it was the gun that he fired him was the one actually used in the trafficking operation. It was the one that was at the scene, but not the actual one that shot him.
Oh, right, gotcha.
So he got, but again, it probably most likely was. They couldn't show it. Right. But it's really tragic and sad. So I wrote about it. I gave solutions, what works, what didn't work out there, what was learned. And at the end, you have to wall off these kind of operations. You can't let the guns go down south. And I never let that happen. I always had a chance. I made the seizures. You made it happen. You interview these guys, and you see what cooperation you have. Unfortunately, now in Mexico, you have the socialist there, Lopez Obrador, very difficult to work with. He doesn't like letting operations happen in Mexico. He revoked the diplomatic immunity for American agents, which I think is ridiculous. That's the reason why I didn't go to Mexico at the end, because of those issues. He doesn't like agents being armed in their country. He's soft on cartel leadership. He believes letting his tactics called hugs for thugs, and thinking that being soft with these guys or not being enforcement, they won't be as violent. But they're very violent still in Mexico.
Now the bad idea of gun walking to try to get intel backfires. People die. Now, there's other types of things ATF does where it's like guns for drugs, drugs for guns. If you're giving real or probably dummy coke or heroin or fentanyl to somebody for a truckload full of guns, do you guys ever let the dope walk? Because if you're giving up a placebo, you're gonna.
It's one thing if it's fake. It's one thing, right? But not anything real. Then
they're going to come back gunning for you if you give them fake stuff and let it walk. They're going to be looking for you.
A lot of times it'll be like a buy bust, right? You have the real deal
on the spot.
Yeah, you buy bust, you take them down. That's what we do. That's what I do a lot of. Reverses did some of those. You have to do it. You don't want to risk losing the weapons. If they're giving you drugs in exchange for guns, I don't want to lose the guns, and vice versa. I don't want to lose the coke either or heroin, whatever they're looking for. So,
you have the book about Fast and Furious on the screen. Let's roll into another one, unless you want to wrap that up somehow on that.
Yeah, let me wrap it up real quick in here. I give solutions, my experience about the whole situation, what we've learned from it, and at the end, I also talk about my book, ATF Undercover. We have to be stronger with firearms trafficking laws. People who are trafficking, sometimes who don't have criminal histories, don't get any time, Bill. That's a problem. They need to have at least minimum mandatory times for these guys who are trafficking guns to send a message, because I mean, obviously, get no time. You buy all these weapons and going down south. That's a problem. We have to deal with that.
Right, and I'll say this for our audience right now. Ignacio is my co-host. He was in federal law enforcement for 27 years. ATF, busting the most violent offenders and doing his undercover dangerous investigations. His book, ATF Undercover, I had the audio version, and it's one of the best books, insightful books I've ever read on the agency. So I would suggest everybody check it out. No call to action here, but if you want to read an incredible book on ATF from an insider, and I'm almost thinking that cases he took an interest in, or maybe didn't want to fit it all into his autobiography, he's now written, the 70-something other books with cases and ideas and solutions to, this guy is all over the place. He's not just on my show. He's everywhere. Thomas Berryman, Crime and Entertainment, Chatting with Stacks, many law enforcement.
Matt Cox.
Many other law enforcement groups have you on their stations as well.
Okay.
So Ignacio's name's everywhere. There's hopefully a drama series and/or a movie coming out about his life and career. But if you want to know the most outspoken person who really is going to tell you what it's like in federal law enforcement and dealing with these gun crimes and all that, this is the guy to hear from, and we hope he makes it to be a congressman one day. So
I was going to say, between me in Congress and you run for president, right, Bill?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a try. I think I'm announcing. I announced in our last interview that I'd like to give it a try in 2000. Was it 28? Next time it comes
28.
around,
Yeah,
I have
that's
plenty of
good.
time. Plenty of time to get my stuff together.
Trump will be out of the picture there, man, because it's hard to beat Trump. There's no doubt about that.
Right, right. So the thing with it, I think I was telling you in a text the other day. We had what's his name, Nixon, doing this, saying, "I am not a crook." Mine can be. I was a crook. I was a crook. Vote for me. At least with me, you know what you're getting. Steal the vote for William Steele.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Anyway, let's roll right into the next one. The impeachment of Biden. What the heck's going on with this president?
The impeachment inquiry, right? I was watching that. Ken McCarthy finally got some real heat and pressure. His majority is very slim in the House, right? And Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene are not big fans of his, and he barely got. I think it took like 15 times to vote, right? 15, 16. It was an absurd number to find him to get the Speaker of the House vote. So he probably was that he would have to do something like this. And there's enough out there. I don't think they have the votes to impeach him yet, Biden, but start the inquiry and see if they can convince. Because some moderates who really don't believe there's enough there. But it seems like if there's smoke, there's fire. And this pay to play scheme that he has with his son out of China and Ukraine and other locations. And when he was vice president, I think there's something there, and they're going to keep on digging. We'll see what happens.
For the record, they have found the banking records now because they gave the impression everybody thought the Democrats thought they were going to go after tax records. Instead, they went after the bank records, and they're all the proof of tens of millions of dollars going to the Biden's pockets, and evidently is Ukraine and China paying them off. So there's a hell of a lot of corruption in that family.
And Hunter has no experience in anything. He's only thing he has experience in smoking crack and watching porn. Heard he had a porn addiction and crack addiction. And you know what else was good at? Lying on ATF forms and buying guns he shouldn't be having, and then taking bad videos on his laptop.
Let's roll right into that. You said something about there's a special prosecutor. My understanding is this is a friend of the Bidens who's been running interference for them and running down statute of limitations. And he's also a Justice Department member. And the rules on appointing a special counsel say it has to be appointed from somebody outside of the Justice Department. So how do we get around all that?
He got around, but it appears that he's going to get indicted in a felony now. So at least it wasn't like him pleading on information for misdemeanor charges with pretrial diversion. So at least it's a little more serious. It's not the tax stuff we hope for more serious, but at least there's gun charges in there for him lying on that. So I like that at least. Now the question becomes, I know we've talked about it before, let's say another judge, because they're going to move it from Delaware to D.C. Let's say it gets a liberal judge, right, which is what they're looking for. But still, maybe he gets house arrest. Maybe he gets sentenced to 2 years. There's serious felony charges, lying on the ATF form, 4473, and being in possession by a drug user in possession of these weapons. What does he get? He might get a couple years. Will his father let him do a couple years? I doubt it.
No, on the way out, he's going to do what probably even Trump would do when he takes office, pardon themselves. So it's just going to happen, and it just cost the country, tens of millions of dollars in investigations and prosecutions that are
that money wasted. We're the masters of wasting money. It's sad.
They can build homeless shelters or places to teach them trades or get them mental health counseling, whatever they need, or help addicts. With all this money they're pissing away on these investigations and sending it overseas to help Ukraine. Now, why are we helping Ukraine? I'm not sure anymore. Like, who's worse? Because isn't that the ones that were hiding, Biden's money? I mean, I don't get it. There's a big tangled web going on with that whole country.
I just hope we don't get an endless war. RFK Jr., I know we talked about it last show. Had a good point there, and others do too. We don't want endless wars anymore. Okay, you're liberated. He didn't take over Kyiv. Putin didn't get that. I know you have the disputed region there. Work it out. Maybe UN peacekeeping forces, something can go in there, right, in Duban's area, and also on the other spot there. But if not, this will never end. This is going to be a war for years, and we'll be over $1 trillion. Not sure we want to be spending $1 trillion on this.
And it's getting worse because they're dropping bombs now on Moscow. So now the people are really turning against Putin. They hit one of his submarines. They hit one of his ships. And evidently, whatever they used to hit those things in a port and at one of their headquarters of the military, actually got 2 ships. I don't know if they sunk or they were just damaged or just the scare tactics.
Some do get some were hit pretty badly. Yeah, they were destroyed completely. Absolutely.
Evidently, what they used was something that Britain had provided them to use.
Nice.
So,
And the U.S. obviously we know is providing all the intelligence for this war. We're behind everything. So it's U.S.
of course,
intelligence helping the Ukrainian. It's a proxy war against Putin. We know what it is. But at the end, we don't want it to become nuclear. We don't want a nuclear war, and that's where we have to be careful.
and he's not going to go easily. This Putin guy, he's not going to go easily. All right, so let's
No.
roll. So we got that out of the way. Let's see now, Mitt Romney. What in the world's going on with this guy? I saw something. He's retiring.
It looks like, he's not gonna. He's 76 years old. I think he sees the writing on the wall. He doesn't want to be in his 80s in the Senate, where he's seeing Dianne Feinstein, which is 90. You see Mitch McConnell, who's freezing all the time. You see others in their 80s struggling. It's a tough job, especially being Salt Lake City in DC. Imagine being in your 80s, have to fly these long flights, the red eyes back and forth, back and forth. It'll take your toll on you, right? He's a rich guy, very rich, right? He was governor also of Massachusetts. He almost beat Barack Obama in 2012. Very at the time, he came close, but unfortunately lost. 2008, he also ran. He lost to John McCain in the primaries. So he's been around for a long, long time. I think he says, you know what, enough's enough. He did one term in the Senate from Utah. A lot of people don't like him because he did vote for Trump to be removed, right? And during the impeachment trial. So in the Senate. So I don't know. I think it's a combination of two things: his age, and also maybe he's getting a little unpopular in Utah, and maybe he was going to get primaried. I don't know, and he want to get embarrassed.
Clarify from myself and for our audience the impeachment. They impeached Trump twice, yet didn't remove him from office. What does that impeachment process look like? I always thought, younger me, not as educated, thought that impeachment meant they were removed, but evidently not. There's another step to removal.
Impeachment means he's been indicted.
All right.
So the House indicts you, and the Senate has a trial to remove you. And it's almost impossible to remove anybody. We've never had a president ever removed because you need 66 votes. That's a lot. 2/3. That is a lot. I don't think you come up with that because most times we're split, right? You're never going to have the House unless the guy's a murdering. He had to be something horrific, espionage. Let's say Trump or somebody else was selling secrets to the Chinese, right? You have to really be a bad character to get it. But for political reasons, it's hard. That's why I think this whole, in my opinion, again, this impeachment inquiry is a waste of time. It could hurt the Republican Party. They have to be careful. Biden's on the ropes right now. He's on the rope big time, right? Don't give him a lifeline. This could give his cause, his people a rallying cause, because in the Senate it's not going to go anywhere. So why do you do this?
Yeah, he's getting so incompetent. It's usually when a president's giving a press conference and getting a hard time from journalists, they just end it. Hey, this is over, and they walk off or whatever. And the case the other day, I saw his press secretary end it. He was trying to talk some more. And then they started playing piano over him so nobody would hear the crazy stuff he was trying to say.
And he doesn't make sense in him. He doesn't make sense. That story about John Wayne that his brother told him about the pony-faced lying. What the heck are you talking about?
Dog-faced lying pony soldier or something.
What the heck is he?
I remember that story from a few years ago where he called, I think, Trump that. And he went on air explaining it was from a movie, and so it's like a thing from a movie. And he caught himself trying to explain that again.
You know what's sad too? He did the same thing when he went to Maui. He went off vacation. He should have went there immediately instead of waiting for weeks, being on vacation. I think he was in Nevada somewhere, Lake Tahoe. He was on vacation in Lake Tahoe, right? He doesn't want to on vacation. People have died horrifically, almost over 1,000 Americans dead. Right, Lahaina has been destroyed. There's absolute wildfire, and then he tells this ridiculous story about him having a little fire in his house in Delaware. And comparing, why are you telling that silly story of yours? These people have died horrifically.
It's insensitive. It's almost like I think Trump went through a hurricane thing one time, and he was throwing toilet paper out to people.
House, Maria.
Come on. I mean, they both make these crazy mistakes and are not taking the emergency in front of them seriously. You need to suck it in, be humble, and help the people. Show that you're there, you're present.
What's sad too? Biden, did you see him when they were talking about the ceremonies of those who died? He was sitting in a chair. He was falling asleep. He was
Oh my
asleep.
God. No, I didn't see it.
He was out like this.
I want to do a story with you. Let's dig into this. And this might, I don't know if it falls into the realm of conspiracy or not. The elite living there suddenly painted all their roofs a certain tone of blue that certain lasers cannot heat up and burn. And that almost
You see
everything,
Oprah Winfrey?
almost everything blue survived over there. And they're thinking that space-based lasers did this for some reason. I don't know. What the heck's
I know one thing. I know Oprah Winfrey and The Rock are not very popular in Hawaii right now. If you've seen what happened,
to try to raise
did you see that commercial? They're asking people to fundraise, the average person to pay to help for relief efforts. Well, people are saying, you guys are worth billions of dollars. Why don't you put some of your more your money in there instead of doing that? And B, she had her, I guess, her own private firefighters that help protect her house. If you look at the home, I mean, that's it. You look at the video. What an amazing property she has. Unreal, unbelievable, but untouched.
Yeah. So is there something about the blue? Have you heard about the blue? The laser does not. There's certain wavelengths to lasers, and the ones that burn and do destruction are something about blue is resistant to them. So somebody had all these towels down, right, and put one of those types of lasers over each one. It caught each one on fire. It hit the blue, and it didn't do it. Somebody else said yes, but when it hit the blue, there was steam, so it looks like they rigged it by putting water on that particular towel. So it wouldn't ignite immediately. But anyway, so there's something that all the blue umbrellas, all the blue cars, and all the blue painted houses survived this. And what's really going on? And that there's still thousands of kids unaccounted for. They don't even know where these children are, if they're dead. Probably.
Yeah, that's horrible. The whole situation with the children are horrible. That's just horrible. That's Lahana. You know what's heartbreaking? Watching the video and watching that, and I watched a documentary on it, a family how they survived, and there's other families that didn't jump over the seawall. They were trapped because you're trapped in that car. The fire now is coming towards you. You have to jump over the seawall and hope you can survive in the water. That was pretty much your options. And some did, some didn't. The ones who stayed in their cars burned alive. They jumped over the seawall and they spent the whole night in the water. So it wasn't freezing waters, but still. And you never know what's out there. It could be sharks. Maybe there were people eaten by sharks.
Not only that, just because you live in Hawaii doesn't mean you know how to swim. So
It's horrible. It's that whole situation with people was absolutely horrible. I think for Joe Biden not to go out there, President Biden not to go out there like he should have, and his stupid comments he made, he has made disastrous decisions. He's not fit to be president. There's no way about it. And I'm saying that as retired law enforcement. I wish the president better, but he is not fit to be president anymore.
Right. So, all right, Ignacio, let's wrap up the show. So we're going to be up here again on another live every Saturday night. Thank you for joining us on this live.
Yeah, man. Awesome show.
And every book in the description, my books, Ignacio's books. We're going to be doing political shows as well. We're going to be discussing the run up to the election, especially anytime something major happens. I mean, we got
a lot of stuff happening. A lot of things happening. This is a great show. Combination of true crime and politics, head to head collide. You can't beat this, man. This is awesome. You like that? You're on the right channel.
There you go. All right. So with that, we're going to sign off. We'll see you guys again next Saturday. Signing off from William Steele and Ignacio Esteban, retired ATF. Good night, everybody.
See you guys. See you. Bye.